This device is a Game Boy, and it is a Game Boy that plays actual Game Boy cartridges. It didn't take long at all before I found myself unable to set the ModRetro Chromatic down. It feels so good to hold in the hand that everything else I've gripped since then pales in comparison. It all comes down to proportions. ModRetro kind of deviates from other retro emulation consoles that are basically flat backs with flat surfaces all around, and they take a page out of the classic devices and have a bit of bulk to it, especially where the battery compartment is on the back here. So it's really nice to hold. That curved compartment bulges out, and it's very accommodating for your fingers. I'm not exaggerating when I say I can hold this for long hours and not feel any discomfort at all. Physically, the coolest thing about the Chromatic is that it is made from a magnesium alloy shell, and it seems durable for the long run. The paint coating gives off this really nice matte sheen that doesn't retain grimy fingerprints. And the company leaned in heavily on these playful colorways. I have the bubblegum pink color, which is totally cool, has the Japanese markings on it, and it's a clear illustration of just how unique this thing is. When you purchase a Chromatic, you do get to choose whether you want English markings or Japanese symbologies. I chose Japanese just because it's a little more weird. There's literally only 4 buttons on here, an A and a B button, and then a select and a start button, and all of these locations are standard. So even if you choose Japanese like me, there really isn't much translation needed for the Chromatic. One big marketing selling point for the Chromatic is the 2.56-inch 160 by 144 inch IPS display. It's made from a sapphire crystal, so that's supposed to help be resistant to scratches. And you combine that with the alloy, the magnesium alloy shell body, and it makes this device a really premium offering for this Game Boy space. And this nifty little handheld isn't an emulation device either. It doesn't play ROMs. It actually uses FPGA architecture to legitimately play these cartridges. It's essentially a brand new Game Boy, but not made by Nintendo. This is further illustrated because it has backwards compatibility with link cable and IR link support. That means this Chromatic actually will play nicely with an actual Nintendo Game Boy Color or other devices that were recently made with these links. That's awesome, and it opens up a wide world of possibilities for mixing and matching player bases. Nowadays, the Game Boy Color modding space is huge, and one of the benefits of buying this is you don't have to mod anything. It actually has a backlit display already for you to go. It's a step up above a vanilla Game Boy Color, but it is far from that crisp display a lot of emulation devices have nowadays. Still, it does retain the proper sharpness and clarity to give players kind of like a genuine Game Boy experience, and still have a modern, advanced touch to it. For a display, we are given limited customizations. That's also one of the benefits, but also the downsides of this. For the display, we are given the option to use frame blending. That is a 3:1 ratio. You can adjust the display's brightness, and you can also toggle on color correction for on and off, and that's really all there is to it in terms of options. Unlike a lot of the retro gaming handheld devices with all these things you can modify from your experience, you don't really get that here. So it is a genuine Game Boy experience just with a backlit nice screen. Another interesting classic touch that ModRetro decided to use for the Chromatic is that it uses 3 AA batteries to operate. It does come with 3 batteries included. They do drain very quickly here, but there's something somewhat oddly satisfying and nostalgic about popping batteries in to play a Game Boy game. But you will be tossing out these batteries pretty quickly as the console once again drains pretty quickly. For some reason too, even fresh batteries when I put it in doesn't appear fully charged when you insert it into the Chromatic for some reason. They don't read as that. So ModRetro says they will eventually sell a rechargeable lithium-ion battery pack that can insert into the Chromatic, but as of publishing of this review, it's still not for sale with no information about when it will be for sale. So you are stuck with AA batteries, whether it's a good thing or bad thing for you. It also can be played with a USB-C cable, so you can plug it in through a USB-C cable to an outlet and play directly tethered to the cable. Keep in mind that if you do buy the rechargeable battery, it is an added cost for potential buyers, whereas other emulation consoles really have that already built in. It's like a standard thing in modern technology. Even many of the Game Boy Color modders, original Game Boy Color modders, they have opted to transition to this from disposable batteries to rechargeable builds. So interesting choice here for ModRetro. So this is a modern piece of technology with a lot of performance power. Since it isn't an emulation console, you can expect the cartridges to play exactly as they were intended to back in the day. There's no frame drops or concerns about aspect ratio adjustments. This is just a Game Boy through and through. There's something extremely satisfying about having a traditional handheld experience that we're accustomed to in the 90s without needing to set up any menu navigations or front ends. There's none of those that you need to do. It literally is a pop a cartridge in and play kind of time and experience here with the Chromatic. So really, who is the Chromatic for? ModRetro is actually making Game Boy games, brand new Game Boy games like this really great version of Tetris that I did a review on Subnautics.com. Unlike an emulation device where gamers just dump their library onto ROMs, the Chromatic only plays cartridges. Yes, you can get flash cartridges as an option, but I'm surprised the majority of people casually looking to play their favorite games are going to go back to an emulation console route. So this really is for like a purist, someone who really wants to play with their cartridges and their cartridge library and wants the best experience they can possibly get. Yes, the Analog Pocket is out there and that's a great device, but I personally feel like this feels better in the hand than the Analog Pocket. The display isn't as nice, but there is more of a genuine experience here when compared to the Analog Pocket. It does feel more legit, like you're playing a better Game Boy Color, not necessarily a clearer Game Boy Color. What I do know is that ModRetro's Chromatic is one of the most comfortable Game Boy form factors I've ever held in my hands. I really enjoy the playful aesthetics to the design languages, and the build quality and the comfortability are really what sold me with this thing. There's a really competitive market for modded Game Boy consoles, but I do think the Chromatic fits well into that segment. You don't have to do anything, any mods or anything. It literally is there. It's a little pricey, but if you do all of the work yourself and you put in your costs and your own time, maybe it might be worth it to buy this. Once again, I'm Alex from Subnautics. Head over to Subnautics.com for a full written review of the ModRetro Chromatic, and I will see you guys in the next video.